Memoir normally concerns some specific event or a scene in one's life. One of the things that should make memoirs much more interesting than autobiographies is that you can leave a lot out. And the art of leaving things out is very much part of the writer's art. And if you remember, in fact, of all artists, remember the old classic quote from Michelangelo saying that he didn't make David, he took away everything that wasn't David. And therefore, what you include and what you exclude is a very important part of the process. Do not get hung up over the terminology. More than anything else perhaps in words, memoirs are an expression of the human spirit. And while that takes notice of rules, it is absolutely not driven by them. And therefore, get your story right and don't worry too much about the rules. It's often said that life is best understood backwards. And while your memoir shouldn't work that way at all, you do need to plan it out in full before starting. I've often seen people's memoirs begin with a logical, chronological progression and then veer off dramatically in one direction, generally the aspect of their life they find most meaningful. Sometimes, in fact, it seems that people only discover their own life's purpose after writing much of their memoir. That makes for fairly chunky reading. So before you start, you really do need to spend much time thinking about what you want to achieve and formulate a plan to get there. It's a really interesting thing is that we get at Excel Publishing, we get a lot of submissions from various people all the time. And we don't actually look to see how beautifully written they are. That kind of helps, but it's not what we look for. We actually look for the story, and people's story can actually be a lot more interesting than they realize. But it's finding it, and what is your story? What else is going to make your memoir good? Well, a few things I think that are important that all writers do, particularly memoir writers do, is go and read some others. There are lots of really great memoirs in the world. I'm not going to recommend any particular one, but go and read some. You don't have to read them all cover to cover, but have a look and see what they do well and what engaged you and what didn't. Memoir writing is an old art. We've been doing it for a very long time. I mean, I do think memoirs are an incredibly useful thing, not so much because of the individual personalities that are in there. Sorry to say that to writers, but it is, you get the very context of the world through them, and what you see of the world, you can learn a lot from memoir.